Hello and welcome to another edition of Inside the Borough, the FAU podcast for and by fans. My name is Dan, and I am joined as usual by Shane and Jack. And today we are going to really wrap up FAU season, not really dive much into what happened in the season. I think that's been talked about enough. But we're going to talk a little bit about some coaching changes at FAU and beyond. Dig a little bit into some recruiting and what the portal might be looking like as we move forward into the spring. So I guess to get started, again, and the coaching kind of talk leaves a little bit really about the summary of the season was how frustrating the offense was. Did we have a quarterback? Thought we found a quarterback, went back to the other quarterback, just offensive inconsistency throughout the year. And kind of the obviously the biggest news out of this after the bowl game is FAU's co-offensive coordinator parted ways with FAU, which was Clint Trickett was a holdover from Lane's era, and I think it's pretty common when there's a holdover from a past kind of coaching tenure or the past coaching staff. If things don't quite go quite as planned, especially in a position, as important as offensive coordinator, those tend to be the first changes made. So, you could say COVID had a huge impact on the offense. Yeah. I mean that we don't need to berate that topic anymore, but this will give the chance to have Willie bring in his own guys. Coach Taggart will have his own guys and not necessarily have to worry about how things were done with Lane, and we don't know how much of that went on in the background, but that's definitely I think the biggest news that we can talk about with coaching changes. We'll start there. So I don't know, Shane, what is your reaction? What are your thoughts on FAU parting ways with our co-offensive coordinator?
First, I kind of want to dive into. I don't know exactly what the co means, okay? I don't think anyone unless you're in that room. So a lot of times, sometimes these titles, that he's more Drew Maringer and Clint Trickett probably had a lot of influence in the offense and game planning and that type of things. I think it's pretty clear that Willie Taggart was calling the plays. Don't want to just say the title was just purely ceremonial, but there could be an element of that. Clint Trickett is surely a really good coach. The guy coached tight ends here, was a good recruiter, and produced a Mackey Award-winning tight end, and produced a tight end that in John Rain that just won and was just second team all Big Ten. Okay. So just kind of, so who knows kind of went, I'm just telling you, even with what I know, who knows how it went down, if it was, kind of a mutual parting of ways or something like that. And, in Clint Trickett's case, he's going to be fine. He's a good coach. Everywhere he's been successful overall. So he'll be fine, and he's going to be around coaching football successfully for a long time. But yeah, I just think there's probably a little, the offense is young, and so is the offensive staff. I went and looked yesterday. I believe every member of the offensive staff is like under 39 or something like that. Like Nord might be the oldest. They didn't all have their date of birth on the FAU Athletics site, but it just seemed like it's not when you compare it to the defensive staff with like Woody, Coach Guidry, Levitt, and Kevin Patrick, you have like decades of experience. You don't really have that with the offensive staff right now. It's kind of Willie Taggart. Norad's only been a full-time offensive line coach for a couple of years. Clint Trickett, his first 3 years in FBS was with us, and kind of same with Jaron Fairman, who coached tight ends this year. And special teams. And, Fairman's a great coach and a great recruiter too. Special teams have been excellent the last 2 years, but they really fell off this year. Special teams got, that last stretch of the season was pretty bad. Block punts, a few long returns, all those type of things, not downing the ball at the 1 yard line. We saw that in the Memphis game, right? Just those little type of detailed things. So I would expect FAU to make a hire that's experience to kind of fill those roles. Exactly what the title will be, I don't know if they're going to hire a co-offensive coordinator, a quarterback's coach. You could see a slight jumbling of the roles. So, maybe they just hire a coach that's just going to coach tight ends and maybe give special teams to one of the defensive coaches or something like that. So you could kind of, see him tinker around with that. And, that's kind of what I expect. And it'll happen quickly. It needs to happen quickly.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, Shane, when you mentioned the age difference between the defensive side of the ball and the offensive side of the ball. Listen, it sucks to lose Clint. He's a good coach, well-liked, but he's also just a good dude, really good person. So anytime that the program goes separate ways with someone who is a good man, take Glenn Spencer, for example, it's a sad day. I did think it was interesting that a lot of Florida State fans were commenting on this, like, oh, here go the coordinators already. Apparently something happened similar to this in Tallahassee after Taggart's first year. So we'll see what the future holds. We don't know what their titles are going to be.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Nothing similar happened to this in the first year in Seminoles. It's very different situations, very different, and Florida State fans just still want to spit vile.
How so?
Walt Bell was brought in by Taggart. He wasn't a holdover.
Okay.
And the play calling duties wasn't as clear. I think the roles are a little bit more defined this year. And at Florida State, I guess Taggart maybe did call the play calls the first year, and it was just a very different scenario.
He wasn't a holdover like Clint.
Yeah, he wasn't a holdover.
Yeah.
So
I did think it was interesting that we had former punter Sebastian Rayla say that Fairman is the best special teams coach in the country. We know that he's a good recruiter, another good guy. It is nice to see that the players and former players like Sebastian, talk about these coaches and how much they mean to them. But we're going to have to go a different direction. I wasn't a big fan of the co-offensive coordinator thing because that was confusing, like you said, Shane. And we would have Drew Maringer, the co-offensive coordinator. He would be the one with defensive coordinator Levitt on media days on Tuesday. Every Tuesday we would get to talk to the coordinators. And nothing against Drew. Drew is so smart, both when it comes to football and just everything else in general. But it's just trying to talk to him. You're trying to figure out where does his responsibilities end and where do Clint's begin. So is it mostly ceremonial? Is it mostly for recruiting? I don't know.
You also got to remember how a lot of these spread kind of RPO offenses go. It's sometimes it's not defined. I know like and they say this like at Clemson sometimes when they had Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott, they were co-OCs. When they were going tempo, they would actually rotate calling plays sometimes. So you're going so fast, you have one guy call a play, and as soon as the play's over, the next guy's kind of already, while that play's going on, the next guy's kind of already starting a few seconds, right? So it's sometimes, how much input they have on the game plan, that type of thing. I know for a fact Clint was down on the field during games, and Drew was kind of up in the booth. So that could have just been, what are you seeing? What do what's going on out there? Who knows exactly? And it could have changed throughout the season. But yeah, you got to remember, in order to, we wanted Clint Trickett to stay. So they had to give him some sort of promotion and raise because he was a good coach and deserved it here. So
yeah, absolutely.
So we'll see. But again, he did coach the quarterbacks this year, and that is the position that's literally going to determine the next 2 years of FAU, whether we continue this streak, no matter how good the recruiting, how good the head coaches are. It won't matter if we don't get good quarterback play. So maybe you want to, go find similar towards the end of Howard Schnellenberger. We found, he brought in a Brian Braum.
Right.
Remember that?
Cool, yeah.
Maybe someone that should have stuck around for a couple years, and been told you're the next head coach at FAU.
The
You
coach in
know,
waiting. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I guess a coach in waiting until, we let Schnellenberger stick around 2 years too long and set the program back 5 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the truth.
Well, we all
But
agree. Yeah.
so, yeah, so, I would expect more experience on that side of the ball, like I've already stated.
I think the two play calling system is really interesting. Something that we've noticed that the offense did this year is that they really slowed down. The play clock would really wind its way down, while with Lane Kiffin, we were used to, 15 seconds on the play clock while the ball snapped. So, whether that double play calling system is the right answer, or whether that was just part of the issue with the quarterback still trying to figure out the new offense, not having spring ball.
Bingo.
We beat that issue, into the ground. But we think that's what it is. But could this help, or would the medicine just be having a spring practice? We don't know.
Yeah, I think, well, let's first discuss the tempo. There's not as many teams that are going to be as tempo as Lane Kiffin, okay? If they're at the, Kiffin's 10 out of 10 on tempo, Taggart probably wants to be at like a 6 or a 7 on tempo. But you got to remember, in order to have tempo, you got to get first downs. It's like one of those things. It's like, oh, if we just went fast. Well, you can't go fast if it's easy to go fast when Motor gashes 8 yards, get up to the line, hand the ball to Motor again for 4, get up to the line, go play action the Motor, and Harrison Bryant breaks off 20. Like, when that's happening, it's easy to run to the line of scrimmage. You have a place to run to. You know what I mean? You can't go tempo, 2-3 yard run, incomplete pass. You know what I mean? 3rd and 8. Like, what are you
not running anywhere? You're
and then there was also issues with tempo this year. We did notice sometimes, and especially when Nick Trani was at quarterback, when they did go tempo, there was false starts. They had trouble getting people aligned. I have read that, Tigers offense is a little bit more complex than maybe we're used to Lane. There's a little bit more things in it, motions, that type of thing. So maybe, like you said, spring and those type of things, they just weren't grasping, or their quarterback just wasn't getting people where they need to be. So, you kind of sometimes live and die by the tempo.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of the last year of the Charlie Partridge era, where they tried to do this. What was it? No Huddle, No Mercy.
No Huddle, No Mercy with Travis Trickett, right?
Yeah,
Travis,
and they would, it always seemed like we'd get a first down, they'd run up to the line, and there'd be a false start. It was kind of, we couldn't get there. Now again, we're going to have a whole off season with spring ball, with summer, and hope most likely a new. The coaching situation finalized most likely here in the next month or so. So we're gonna have time. Plus another quarterback coming in, which I think that might be a good way for us to kind of transition into recruiting in the transfer portal. So
look at that.
Obviously there was some big names that came down came out of the transfer portal into FAU's favor. So Shane, do you want to talk about some of the higher profile names and potentially what FAU's thinking of?
So guys, we have the second signing day coming up. FAU still has high school kids committed. I think it's important to remember that. And I don't know the exact number. FAU still, depending on how you look at it, and if they count some kids forward and backwards, probably has about, give or take, 8 spots. Okay. I don't know. That's not exact. Okay. That these things are really complicated. And, you have X amount of kids committed right now, and you kind of do the math, and, a lot's going to change in the next month with these spots. I think one important thing to remember is when FAU got all these commits in the summer, the coaching staff hadn't practiced with the team once, right? So you're recruiting to a team you don't even know about. You know what I mean? You don't even have a spring practice. You don't know. You're only guessing on what your running back situation looks like. You went into last year, if you're recruiting last summer, you're thinking, man, our running back situation is deep. Let's get a couple young raw kids and we'll have time to develop them. Now you're looking at a running back situation. You go, okay, well, no one in the room can stay healthy for more than a game. We need guys. We love the talent, but Malcolm Davidson, we're going on 2 years and not being able to stay healthy. I think 3 years not being able to stay healthy. Larry McCann has now had 2 major ankle surgeries in his first 2 seasons. I don't know if BJ Emmons is coming back. James Charles says he's coming back. I like James Charles. He's reliable, but, how many plus 20-yard runs did James Charles have this year?
Is that explosive like the other
Yeah,
one?
it's just, I made the biggest point on my takeaways that, FAU had to go and it's not like the offense didn't move the ball this year. They couldn't finish drives, right? That was the big thing. And it's hard when you have to go 10, 12 plays every drive. Any team that has to go 12 plays, in those 12 plays, a mine's going to go off. You're going to get a holding. You're going to get a sack. You're going to get something goes wrong. And I hate making this comparison, but you see Alabama score. It's 20 yards, 25 yards, 32-yard touchdown. Like, they had the ball for 2 minutes. So you kind of need plays, and you need running backs who can take a basic quarterback read option and bust it for, and take it to the house. And we just don't have that. So, there's like over 600 players in the portal at all positions. I would say also corner is to me, almost equally to a need as quarterback. Like, quarterback's a more important position, but honestly, we don't know if Zion Gilbert's coming back. We saw what the cornerbacks looked like once Roman Munchen got hurt. Okay. The other 2 guys were just straight picked on. All right. And if Zion doesn't come back, is Roman Munchen he's nice, but still I think he's a little undersized to be considered a true shutdown. I mean, he played amazingly last year. He's Chris Tooley, but we got to have a James Pierre. You know what I mean? And if Zion leaves to go to the NFL, which is probably still 50-50 at this point, man, like, and, we'll start to see what seniors kind of emerge and, say they want to stick around. I think it'd be helpful. A guy like Jordan Helm sticks around, just kind of veterans. We'll see what Leighton McCarthy, we'll kind of see. And maybe a guy like Desmond Noel, we can bring back all 5 starters in the offensive line, which would be huge. They'll be much improved next year. The O-line is going to be one of the best in the conference. I'll take that to the bank right now on January 6th. So.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about how, they had the false starts, the holdings, talking about the O-line here. You need good chemistry along the line. And one of those things, as we saw with Marshall this year, how good their line was, that's because they returned all their starters. So that really helps building the chemistry and really helps an offensive line develop. I want to touch a few things real quick. A lot of kids left in the portal right now. There's going to be kids left in the portal. It is tragic what's happening across football.
Killing high school recruiting too.
Yeah, and we could spend hours talking about that, but it is tragic. And Coach Taggart even said that himself, that a lot of kids are taking risks because they have someone in their ear, grown up in the air, who's not looking out for their best interest, who thinks to have their best interest out for these kids, and the kids are going to be left stranded, and it's heartbreaking.
Just to make a in-state comparison, let's look at a kid like Jordan McLeod at USF.
Yeah.
Who really started to play better at the end of the year, okay? And, yeah, maybe he was upset. I don't know, and I'm just guessing here, maybe he was upset they brought in Jaron Williams, the Miami transfer. Like, oh, I finally get going and going in an offense. First of all, where is Jordan McLeod going to have to go in the entire country where he's not going to have to compete, right?
Yeah, right.
But he has all the momentum. He's been in the offense for a year. That USF offense started to click at the end of the year. They put up nearly 50 points on UCF. And granted, everyone put up 50 points on UCF, but still, you saw USF make that team was really bad, and you saw them make improvements. Now this kid's gonna enter the portal, and
where's he gonna go?
He's a 9-touchdown, 2-interception guy who was kind of rotated starting, but he started playing good at the end of the year. I'm sure he would go into camp as with every chance to win the job. You know what I mean? And who's going to take him at the FBS level now? Or even if he does go somewhere, he has to start all over again.
He could go to Houston Baptist, right?
And I will say this. FAU, I know people want to know about a quarterback. There's a lot of guys in the portal now. Trust me, there's fans on Twitter who every single time someone enters one, at any time, there's a few people out there DM me and go, what do you think? Can we get this kid? A couple things with that.
Or there's the eyes emoji.
Pretty much.
Every single one of them.
We're going to do this kid from California that's probably never been to Florida his entire life. the portal's really much about connections. I'd say the biggest clue is, just look at, Michael Johnson. He was recruited by this staff when he out of high school. Look for a quarterback that's from the area that maybe visited Florida State when or visited Oregon, or has a connection to Drew Maringer at Texas. Maybe Drew Maringer they crossed paths in Texas. Says, hey man, you remember when I came to your high school? Those are the type of things. We saw Western Kentucky get that quarterback from Sam Houston State. One of the coaches at Western Kentucky has a prior connection to that kid. So these big time quarterbacks that enter typically are going kind of somewhere in mind. And FAU also shouldn't rush just to take someone now to get them in by spring. You're going to have the kids in the portal now, and then you're going to have another wave. If there's spring football, which hopefully there will be, you always get another wave in the summer of really talented kids once they play spring and realize they probably won't be the starter at X and Y Power 5 school. So you'll get a whole fresh new wave. Yes, I'd love to have a kid in the spring, but if you can wait till after the spring and get a more talented kid that fits your system and culture better, don't rush this decision.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this last show is FAU is fortunate that we are, in the center of a hotbed of recruiting, and people can come home. These kids can come home, if you will, to they'd be closer to family. Things didn't work out wherever they were across the country. It was too cold someplace, and FAU is kind of in a strategic spot. And FAU has done, really well in the portal the past couple of years. Yes, Lane had something to do with it, but even before that, kind of some transfers under Partridge worked out well. So I think we're in a fortunate position where, like Shane said, we can kind of take our time. Schools that are not as fortunate as us in this area, I think, have to make decisions sooner, so we can kind of take the time to get the right guy for us.
You can only take 25 kids a year.
Yep.
Right.
I would love to take 4 quarterbacks from Power 5 schools. Be like, come down to Florida and compete for the starting job. May the best man win. Mm-hmm. But you can't do that.
And listen, guys, would we rather be a team in Florida without a co-offensive coordinator, or a team in West Virginia without a head coach going into the second signing day? I mean, there you go. We're going to have to rely, and we have been relying on our location. And that's why I think the Jordan McLeod situation is so interesting, leaving USF. Like you said, Shane, he has the experience. He's been getting the USF offense rolling. He's from Tampa. He's a local kid. Where is he going to go? I mentioned Houston Baptist because you said Sam Houston State earlier. The quarterback that Western Kentucky got is actually from Houston Baptist. That's why.
Okay. That's confusing. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so many Houstons. That's why I mentioned that, because they're going to be needing a quarterback. But it just shows that, he's going to have to be dropping down to a level because there are going to be so many kids in the portal. So no matter what, we're in a better situation than Marshall is right now, both in recruiting class, both with head coaching, both with the next signing day. So, we got that going for us.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's
kind of,
we wrapping up the season, and again, the season has kind of been beat to death. I think it was a success. We got to see some players that we wouldn't have. Some players got an extra year of eligibility. I think FAU will come out on top. And, also think about this offensive coordinator situation and this kind of practice year, if you will. FAU got to figure out the coaching situation and move forward in the right way. And Marshall still didn't win Conference USA. So that's a big thing. And certainly everybody's aware that Marshall let Doc Holliday go. That's a topic certainly for a podcast in itself. So
have you ever seen that a coach of the year for the conference be let go right afterwards? It's crazy, right? It's almost like he wasn't the actual coach of the year. It's crazy. Oh my god, what? Oh
yeah. So I don't know. You guys have any last thoughts on this year or for this episode?
This year will be a better year. That's it.
Especially with what's going on at Marshall, have to win the division. Have to. I mean, we don't know what the situation is going to be at quarterback. We have an idea. That being said, I really do just want to say something, though. I try not to talk about things like this, but I'm really tired of seeing fans saying that, like, Posey and Tronte suck or are trash or something. That has no place in our fan base. If you're an FAU fan, then you should support our FAU student athletes. These are just kids, and they give 110% to the program. And if you're not able to respect that, then I don't know what you're doing here. I'm sorry. I've been seeing it a lot in the last couple of weeks, and it's just there's so much negativity in the world already. Can we not put down kids for trying?
Yeah.
It's just, God, I'm sorry. I'm gonna get mad. It's just so I don't get it. I don't.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like I used to be a little bit that way, but now it's my anger and frustration will go towards coaches. I mean, these are,
the ones actually getting paid, the professionals.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's what it'll do. So
yeah,
yeah. So I think that wraps things up for us here and puts a wrap on this season. And then some kind of personal news for me. This will be my last episode on Inside the Burrow. I think Jack and Shane are doing really the whole team at Owl's Nest really is doing an awesome job. And, I think I've got, a lot of other things going on in life right now. And I think it's a good opportunity, a good time to step away. And certainly I feel very confident in them carrying on the show. And, I'm grateful to Owl's Nest and to Rick for allowing me to do this. I should have went back and looked. I think we started this back in 2014, 2015, maybe. This is definitely one of the longest tenured Conference USA podcasts. And it's been a blast. It's been a privilege to come to talk FAU football with you guys. And, I appreciate it. So this will be my last episode, and we'll be handing the reins over to you guys, and definitely stay tuned, because I'm sure Jack and Shane are going to have some awesome content for you guys. So yeah, for my last time, thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it. Make sure you check us out at FAUOwlsNest.com, on Twitter, not on Instagram, Twitter, iTunes, Spotify, everything like that. So
FAU Owl's Nest is on Instagram, though. Give us a follow at FAU Owl's Nest.
Yeah. Thank you, Jack. So
and Dan, thank you, man. You're the last OG left. It wouldn't be here without you, and that needs to be known. So thank you.
The largest FAU podcast founder. Yeah. I mean, others have come and tried to compete so far with with this podcast, and it just hasn't worked.
Yeah. So
nothing but love for other pods, but it wouldn't be here without
especially those guys on the Sulabo pod. Not them. No.
I don't know. There's that one FAU guy in the Sulabo pod. I'm not sure about that.
Bunch of hacks. So,
but
yeah.
Dan, thanks a lot, man. Just want FAU Owl Nation to know that we're grateful for you.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. You'll still see me on Twitter and on the board and stuff like that. So,
all right.
Yeah. So for one last time, thanks for joining us. Go Owls.